All right, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to another episode of MPL. Today I am joined by two very special guests, Miguel and Miriam. This is an episode that I have been wanting to do since I think end of November or something like that, and it's finally happening. So I'm very, very, very excited. But before we get into it, I want to let Miguel and Miriam introduce themselves. So Miriam, do you want to go first?
Hello, I'm Miriam. I'm 20 and I converted to Islam a year ago. I'm also from London.
Cool.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Miguel. I've been Muslim for just over 2 years. Come from a Portuguese background. I'm a little older than 20, but not too old. And yeah, I'm from Mississauga, Ontario.
Sweet. For anyone who's still wondering, this episode is going to be sort of shining a light on the Revert Muslim experience and just asking them about sort of their journey, a little bit about some of the struggles they face, and just kind of picking their brain a little bit, because I think there's a lot of luxuries that people like myself, who is a born Muslims, we do have, and we underappreciate a lot of the times. And so this episode is just sort of meant to focus on the experiences of people finding their way to Islam as opposed to just being born into it, and sort of appreciating both perspectives a little bit. And so I wanted to start off the conversation by sort of just asking you how your decision has impacted, if it has impacted any relationships that you may have, whether it be family relationships with your friends, extended family, etc. Has it closed off any doors? Has it opened any new doors for you? Just wanted to ask you guys about that. Either of you can go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'll just jump in there. Yeah, so basically it's been an interesting journey becoming Muslim, because how my family relationship has kind of changed over the past 2 years. It initially was kind of like a huge shock to my family, because my family was just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Especially to my mother, who also, because raised Catholic. So my mom also at one point wanted to become a nun. So that it was kind of like a huge, huge shock for her. She basically thought, because I stopped believing that Jesus was God, I'm going to hell instantly, and that kind of created like this kind of weird tension in like the house. But I think this is something that I know a lot of reverts kind of experience, is like they don't know how their family's going to react, and that's something that's like always at the back of like, at least my mind, of what's going to happen. You don't want anything bad to happen, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, do I tell them? Do I not tell them? What's going on here? I've only told my immediate family. My extended family have no idea, even to this day. Even on my social media handles and all that, they have Muslim in the name, but they can't put two and two together for some reason. They just kind of assume it's there. Um, it's just one of those things where it's just like, I don't want to bring it up, but if it comes up, I'm going to try and avoid the conversation as much as possible. With my friends at the time, I actually don't talk with them anymore, because to be honest, Islamophobia is a real thing. Even here in Canada, it's something that definitely exists, and you really see how much, because I went to Catholic school growing up all the way up until grade 12. You really see how much of a bubble your world is in when you're really not exposed to a diverse set of people. And when I became Muslim, it was kind of like they didn't know how to react, and they were kind of like weirded out by it. And I'm like, it's just another religion. It's just like Judaism. It's just like Hinduism and stuff like that. But a lot of I realized really quick that a lot of people really don't know that much about Islam. From a lot of non-Muslims have no idea what Islam is really about. So
I have a follow-up question for you. I know COVID has probably helped with this, with not really meeting extended family and whatnot. But how do you think they're gonna react when slash if they find out? Because I'm assuming they're gonna find out at some point.
at some point, I know they will find out. But the good thing is I've met them and I've had conversations with them while I've been Muslim, and they haven't realized. So my long-term goal is to be like, if they find out, I'm be like, hey, I've been Muslim for the past 3 years and you've not noticed the difference. So you know what I mean? So I kind of like level it out that way. That's what I'm hoping. Play the long game and hope for the best. That's my goal with that one. So
Nice. What about you, Miriam?
So I've been really blessed with, in terms of friendship, I've been completely and utterly welcomed by all my friends. To be honest, I was always like, so before I was Muslim, I was very, very Christian. I was called like the Jesus girl. Like I was very much preaching it all the time to everyone. So for them, it was just, she's gone from one religion to the other. Like she's still just as weird. Like there's no difference. So they kind of just embraced it and didn't really see it as anything different. And they're really, really respectful, especially like some of the guy friends that I have, so respectful in the way they've like accepted it and everything. And then in terms of family, like you, Miguel, my family is very, very, not Catholic, but they're Protestant, so they're Christian, very, very, very strong in their beliefs. Like they've ran churches in their, like in previous times. They're very, very, yeah, I can't really stress enough how Christian they are. So it was kind of like a matter of, it was like, do you tell them, do you not? Like you don't want to hide it from them, you don't want to, because you feel like you're lying. Like I remember one time we went to a restaurant and there was like alcohol in some of the food and everything was pre-ordered. So I had to like go behind my family's back to the waitress to say like, don't bring me this food, like it's got alcohol in it, I can't have it. And it's like you feel like you're lying to them, but at the same time, like you don't know how they're going to react, so you don't want to tell them. And when I eventually did tell them, obviously it was difficult. It's like you kind of see that you've immediately like broken their hearts. Like like with my mum, it was like her whole world was just shattered when I told her. It's like a kind of pain that you'd never really want to bring on someone ever, but at the same time, like it's what you believe in, you don't really have a choice. And yeah, it was difficult. It still is difficult, and it will probably be difficult for quite a while, but that I'm blessed with friends and stuff, and yeah, so that's good. Alhamdulillah.
I do also have a follow-up question for you. So you mentioned that you're living away from home, studying in university. Do you think that has helped a little bit in terms of not really facing the family pressures to the same degree?
Yeah, 100%. So after I originally told them, I straight out moved out. It was kind of a thing where you have a choice, but you don't really have a choice in the matter. And because when I'm at home, especially as a woman wearing hijab, it's like just right in front of their eyes. It's like, wow, there's no hiding it. I'm completely and utterly Muslim. Like it's not, it can never be hidden, you know? And so by being able to move out and then, for example, now being uni, it's not rubbed in their faces anymore. Like, for example, when me and my mum would go out, like out together in town, like people would see me with hijab and like they'd stare because where we're from, like there's not many Muslims. And it's like I can see her feeling like, you can just see it like overwhelming her and stuff because everyone's looking at me and it's just completely rubs it in her face that I am not Christian anymore and I am Muslim. So being able to move away from uni definitely has helped the situation be a bit more avoided because it's just not rubbing it in their face anymore.
By the way, guys, this is supposed to be a conversation. So if you guys have any questions for each other, feel free to ask. Like you don't have to like, be shy or anything. We're all one, one big family here.
I was gonna say there's one thing that Miriam brought up that I think is such a valid point that I don't think uh many people in general I'd say don't realize. I know as like a Muslim revert guy, for example, if I don't want to talk about it, there's no visual signs on me saying I'm Muslim, right? And that's something I have the benefit of, right? Like I can avoid that conversation altogether. But like with Miriam, for example, it's like she wears the hijab, she's visibly Muslim, right? Like that conversation, how people are going to react just by looking at her. It's like it's a lot harder for especially Muslim revert sisters. It's hard in general, but like there's that added level of like I'm Muslim, just straight there with the hijab, especially that I think I gotta give credit to because it's like it's one of those things where it's difficult for me, but like it's difficult where I can still kind of escape it. But for Miriam, for example, and Muslim revert sisters, it's like there's no escape. It's that thing. So there's like this added level of like strength that they have to have on top of everything else as being a revert to Islam already has. It's just I don't know. I just respect it a lot, but I think it's something that not many people actually speak about.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a lot of people, and I think we'll get into this a little bit later with like the whole haram police thing. Like a lot of people, they look at things in a vacuum, right? And so, like you said, it takes a lot of internal strength to, because the hijab isn't only a physical thing, it's a connection with God, right? And so you need to develop that internally and externally. And what people do is they're like, oh, there isn't something covering your hair, you're going to hell. But they don't actually realize the context in which people are living in, because in some situations, if they see a scarf on your head, like you're getting disowned, you're getting kicked out of the house, like everything's done. But people don't know that, right? Which really, really sucks. But I did want to also ask you guys, because you guys do come from a strong Christian background, do you think your decision has prompted anyone in your immediate family or even friend group to explore Islam a little bit?
Um, in, in my family, I don't think so. I think okay, I'll be honest. I think they've kind of like accepted the fact that they know that my decision, I'm really strong in my beliefs of being Muslim, but I don't think that's changed theirs. But I know for certain things, like because what brought me to Islam was like my hardcore studying of Christianity, which is kind of like ironic in the first place, but like it's like things around like Christmas time when my mom's just like, why don't you celebrate Christmas? I'm like, I can't celebrate Christmas, I'm Muslim. And then she's kind of looking at me and she's just like, I'm like, even the Bible says like not to even have a Christmas tree in the house. And she's like, where in the Bible does it say that? And I'm like, Jeremiah chapter 10 verses 1 to 5 kind of thing, right? And then she's like, she kind of looks at me and she's just like, what is he talking about? And then like a couple days later she'll ask me about it and I'll be like, yeah, Jeremiah, come on, take a look. And then she'll take a look and then she'll just like close the Bible and put it down and like pretend like I didn't say that and she didn't read it, because it's one of those things where it's like, this really just contradicts what you've been told your entire life, right? And with my family especially, I don't think they've fully come to terms with the whole Islam thing, but at the same time they know I'm not going to change. So it's just kind of like, okay, we'll allow it. Like you know what? Alhamdulillah, my father actually bought me halal chicken, you know? So it's like one of those things where it's like, this seems kind of crazy what he's doing, but like, I'll make it a little easier for him kind of thing. Like, I'm pretty sure they think I joined a cult. I'll be completely honest. Like, I feel like my family thinks I joined a cult 100%. But
Oh, man. What about you, Miriam?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. My family is it's not really something they're looking into at all, or will be, I think, for quite a long time. Obviously, I tried to have conversations with them about it, but it's very much like shut down before it's even properly brought up. Because I think there's obviously an element of, if you've lived something for your whole life, to have anyone ever try question that, it's just scary in general. And I think, especially as obviously like they're my parents, they're a bit older, it's something they've lived so fully, to have like their own child deny it, it's just scary for them to even look into that or have discussions on questioning it. So yeah, not really so much in my family. I do have two friends though that are both looking into reverting to Islam soon, alhamdulillah, which is amazing. Yeah, and I think that's just, you know, like being around them and them, like me introducing them a bit more to the Islamic community and stuff, just kind of showing them. Yeah, but apart from that, yeah.
Nice. Well, inshallah, they can, you know, learn the religion and you can be an ally to them and hope for the best.
Inshallah.
I also wanted to ask you guys, because for someone like me, because we're born into it, a lot of the things that are what we see as like basic things, like, you know, praying, making wudu, starting to learn like Arabic, etc., is taught to us at a really young age, and it's just sort of like it's just very, I guess, ingrained within the household. But obviously for people who explore the religion and they end up reverting, it's a process, right? And there's a lot of things that people have to learn. And so I wanted to ask you guys, like, what were some of the challenges associated with sort of learning some of the things, and like, you know, even some of the challenges you face until this day? Miriam, Miguel has spoken a lot, so we'll start with you this time.
please.
I remember when I was learning to pray, getting so frustrated with myself because like I called it's so bad, but I called like the routine, like the movement and stuff. I couldn't get it in my head like at all. And I've danced my whole life. So for me to not be able to remember where, like which bit goes when, was, oh my God, it frustrated me so much. And obviously, like I had someone to teach me, but they're not with me all the time. And just trying to get it in my head was just hard. Not even to mention trying to learn Arabic. Like that in itself is just a whole different story, because all their sounds are completely new. Like I haven't learned half these sounds, and obviously if you're born into a Muslim family, you grow up learning the different sounds and stuff. But for me, it's like, wow, I don't know how to make these sounds, let alone like string together sentences and try and read Arabic and stuff. But I think, yeah, so learning both of those things I found really, really hard. And also something that I struggled with was like dressing modestly. So my whole wardrobe was just the complete opposite of modest, like the furthest end you could get from being modest. So I found that really, really difficult to go and like try and halawify my outfits and like get things that covered me more. Obviously it was definitely a process, not something you can do overnight, like ever. I mean, maybe if I was a millionaire, it would be okay, but like it's not something you can do overnight. So I've really, really struggled with that, and I still struggle with it today. Like it's an everyday struggle trying to find something that, you know, like I can look at myself and say, you know, that's still Miriam, I still recognize her, but also in a modest way. Yeah, I don't know if, obviously Miguel, you're a man, but you still got to dress modesty. I don't know if you found that a struggle at all, but that was a big one for me.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, like modesty for men is kind of like different to women. Obviously, you have to dress like a certain level. Like I know it's like the belly button below, like to the knees for men. But it's not like I'm going to the beach in Canada every single day, right? So it's like it's one of those things where it's like it hasn't been too difficult because it's like most of the clothes I wear already cover most of it, right? So
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, that wasn't really too difficult. To be honest, I always like comparing like how I was as a practicing Christian to like a practicing Muslim, because I was already praying often before. So now I was just praying kind of like on these set time periods. But I actually do enjoy it more because now I'm like there's like a consistent like time across the day, as opposed to me praying in the morning or praying right before I go to bed kind of thing. So that wasn't like too different. Um I never really liked pork to begin with. I know that's kind of random, but like that's just something like I just never really liked before. So just cutting that out wasn't really too difficult. And I never really ate too much meat anyway. So I went from like just not really eating too much meat to eating only halal meat. But you know, I'm really blessed in the area I'm in Mississauga, because um, the Muslim community here is really, really developing. There's been a lot of like significant like change within like the last 10 years just in my area alone. And like there's restaurants and there's so many things within just like a 5 kilometer radius of where I live that provide these opportunities. The university that I went to, the pub, I call it a pub, but like it's not like I was out there drinking alcohol, but all the food that was served there at my university was all halal. So it was one of those things where like there's always options available. And it's something I realized, like the location I was in and the time that everything happened, it was really, really useful because the people that came into my life and they made it easier. They taught me how to pray. Um, but yeah, I'm with Miriam making wudu. I can tell you right now, those steps, that is a whole process. Like you're like, okay, I do my hands. Now what? Then like I remember at one point someone was like, yeah, you clean your ears too. And I'm like, you're cleaning your ears up in here too? Like what's going on with this? Like this is like a whole new thing. And then like you're cleaning your hair, and then you do like your arms, and then you do your feet. I'm just like, wow, this is like all over the place. I'm like, at first I'm like, am I doing the hokey pokey? Is this like what's going on here? Like it was all over the place. But it's one of those things where it takes a while, like to say it's a 1 day process, and then you take shahada, and then boom, you're Muslim, and then you're off to the races, and you know everything. That's a lie. Especially, I'm gonna tell you right now, it took me a good bit of time to figure out how to make wudu on my own, how to pray. I remember at one point I'd be in like the prayer room at my university. I'd have my cell phone, and I'd be reading the prayer, and I began like weird looks from Muslims. They're like, why is this guy on his phone while he's praying? And it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying, like, but I gotta say it, right? So it's, yeah, it's a learning process.
I have two questions for you guys. Number one, how did you react when you found out you had to wake up before sunrise to pray? And number two, have you ever had an awkward encounter when you have to like wash your feet in public while making wudu? I'm curious, man. I'm just curious.
Do you know what? Waking up for Fajr, I absolutely love. When I found out you had to do that, for me personally, that was like the best thing, because I was the same as Miguel. Like praying a lot, but to know that I have to get up to pray, like, it's just mind-blowing. Like, it was just the best thing, because it's like all of a sudden it's like a very easy thing, or it's not always easy, but it's simple, something that you can do to worship your God. But like, I don't know, I love it. I think it's such a good thing. I've never had an awkward encounter making wudu before washing my feet. Alhamdulillah.
The morning thing, to be honest, I agree with Miriam. I love waking up early in the morning, and I think given the opportunity to pray early morning, like by yourself, like I'm in my room, it's super quiet. It's a very unique experience, and I think a lot of Muslims don't realize like how unique and beautiful like this time in the morning by yourself, right? It's something really really special that in Christianity, it like you can pray, you can go to church and you can pray there, but like when you're praying beside people in like the rooms and like in the masjid or something like that, it's a very different and unique experience. The washing, the awkward encounter of making wudu, yeah, there's definitely been a couple. At my university, there's like they didn't have a wudu station, or ablution station close to the prayer room. They only had two sinks. So you're in there and you're kind of scouting the area beforehand. And you're like, okay, like what's going on here? And like as a new Muslim, it's like I reverted in my fourth year. So I knew a whole bunch of people like beforehand, right? But they didn't know I was Muslim because it happened over the summer. So I come back and I'm like, okay, like no one's here. I'll just go in there. I'll pop into the washroom, make wudu. And I'm in the washroom making wudu, and of course you have to wash like your feet. So I'm like trying to wash my feet as quick as possible because you're like, I don't want to be noticed by anyone. And then someone that I know comes in that doesn't know I'm Muslim and sees me washing my feet, and then they're just like looking at me with like a death stare, and I'm just like, oh no, this is gonna like it's one of those things where it's like, how do you explain first of all that you're Muslim now? Second of all, that you're washing your feet, because like to non-Muslims, washing your feet in a sink is like the weirdest concept ever, right? But then when you're Muslim, you're like, yeah, this is normal. This is what we gotta do, right? But like to non-Muslims, it's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? What kind of anarchy is happening in this place? And it's just one of those awkward moments where you're just like, how's it going? Good. All right. We'll see you in a bit. And they just walked in and then they just walked right back out. They just didn't say anything. And I'm like, all right. And that was my last encounter with that person. I never saw them again.
Nice. Miriam, I have a question for you. So, alhamdulillah, you wear the headscarf. I'm curious how your journey to wearing the headscarf was. Was it just like was it immediate in that when you converted, you're like, this is just something I have to do, and other Muslims are doing it, or because I know a lot of revert Muslim sisters, it's a process for them, and they get slayed on social media for some reason for like not immediately just like wearing a headscarf, right? So I'm just curious to know how your process was.
Yeah. For me, the headscarf was actually one of the main things that made me go, yeah, I want to be Muslim. I find it so beautiful, like insanely beautiful, that the whole concept behind all of it. And so I actually couldn't get it on quick enough. I wanted to put it on the second I took my shahada. I was so ready. But obviously, that I said before, I didn't want to rub it in my parents' face, especially before they even knew. Like, you can't do that. And I kind of felt like it's something you have to put on at home, and then you walk out and you wear it, and then you take it off when you get home, not like put it on like when I get around the corner of the street, like before anyone notices. It's something that I wanted to do and be comfortable doing, knowing that everybody that needs to know knows. So I converted, and then a month later I put it on. So I put it on quite fast, and I put it on like straight away. That I know a lot of reverts kind of practice. So they'd put it on and they'd go out like for a day to see how it feels, which is like totally respectable. I understand why people do that, because it was so scary. I remember the first time I wore it, I was literally shaking the whole journey, because where I was off to, literally shaking. But it was something that kind of made me want to convert in the first place. So I couldn't get it on quick enough. I was so excited to wear it. Yes, it was like really, really nerve-wracking, but it was something that I really, really wanted to do. In terms of like people's reactions to it, because obviously that's like very much she's Muslim now, it was like everyone was so supportive of it, like my friends and stuff. So I was like a big dancer. Dance was my whole life. And I remember before I kind of made the decision to stop dance, like going into dance class with the headscarf on, and obviously these girls, because I was a ballerina, they're in like pink tights, like black leotards, like everything showing, and obviously I was gonna be covered and be wearing a headscarf, and it was like I just felt so at home. Like the way that they invited me in and made me feel so comfortable, I genuinely was not expecting it. Obviously I knew all of these people. They were really, really, really amazing about it. When I like went to go in to audition for other dance schools, it was a completely different story. It was horrible the way they treated me. Like it was not good. But with my friends and family, not family, my friends, it was a really good experience with wearing it, and I've loved it. But I do, obviously you can get like, for example, sometimes I show my neck, and I know a lot of people don't like that. And obviously I want to wear it properly, inshallah, in the future I will. But it's still something that if you're on a journey with every day, and obviously you're going to have days of weak iman and low iman, and sometimes if you're just not feeling yourself and you feel like you're going to feel like you look better with your neck showing, then it's one of those things where like allow yourself to have those days, you know. But obviously not everyone likes that. But that was a lot of information.
Yeah, it's honestly like I can't relate, obviously, because I'm not a girl. But it really sucks when you hear stories like where people overtly discriminate you, and they change the way that they treat you and their attitudes just because something that doesn't even outwardly affect them has changed about you. And it really sucks to hear that. And I hope that there's bigger and better opportunities coming your way that are gonna be in line with your beliefs and your modesty, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you.
You know, there was this, I think I heard this on a podcast, so I don't know how true this is, but apparently they did this experiment in, I think, New York, where they had like a model or some woman just like walking down the street, just like regularly wearing whatever regular clothes. And she wasn't a Muslim. And then they had the same woman kind of dress more modestly, put on like a headscarf and everything. And they noticed a huge difference in how she was treated. When she wasn't wearing modest clothing, people were like catcalling her and, you know, like trying to like insinuate like whatever like sexual things about her. So I'm curious, like when you decided to dress more modestly and put on the hijab, did you notice a difference in people just like treating you and how you would be looked at as a woman?
I would love to say yes, but do you know what? No, it actually really, really angers me, because you would think that now that I'm like covering more, whatever, that, you know, people wouldn't sexualize women as much, but it just shows it's not about the clothes that women wear, because the men that do like sexualize women, catcall, whatever, when you walk past, it doesn't matter what they're wearing most of the time, because I get it just as much dressed. I could be wearing a abaya and I still get it. Yes, I do also get completely like I want to kill you death stares, as well as other not death stares, other stares. But I can't lie, it hasn't really changed, to be honest, which I think is, yeah.
So wait, you get these like comments and things from like Muslim people now?
Muslim people, do you know what? I don't really see many Muslims. So these are from like just pedestrians in the street and stuff. But yeah, because I'm like the only Muslim that lives on campus at my university. And in my university, there's, I don't know, like 2% Muslims. It's very, very minimal. So in the area that I'm in, there's literally no one. So this is just from normal people. Well, not that Muslims aren't normal, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, makes sense.
Actually,
go ahead.
I was gonna ask Miriam because she was speaking about like her journey to hijab, and it's something I've always been curious about. You said that like you went out like a couple days and like you would test it out, kind of thing. Can you like walk me through like one of those days, like how you feel like in the morning you're like, okay, today I'm gonna try it out, and kind of like your experience of like that day and like how you felt at the end of the day with one of those trial days? I'm just curious.
Do you want like a hijab tutorial, bro?
I'll take it. Why not? Honestly, at this point, we might as well just go through with it.
So I actually never did any of those trial days.
Okay.
I just know other people that have. Like, well, I don't actually personally know them. I've seen them on TikTok. They talk about how like they have these trial days and stuff. For me, it was just like I just went straight in. As soon as I was given a headscarf, I was like, I now have no reason to not wear the hijab. There's nothing stopping me. I have the headscarf and I've got like I want to do it. There's nothing that I could wake up. Well, I could not wake up tomorrow and I'd say, well, I had the chance to wear hijab and I haven't done it. So in my eyes, the second I got the hijab, I was wearing it and I was out and about.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Wow, that's very bold and courageous. Kudos to you.
It was scary. I'm not gonna lie, but it was good.
Damn. I wanted to ask you guys. You guys are both on arguably the most addicting app on mobile right now in TikTok. And so I wanted to ask a little bit about the haram police, right? So, you know, some people really hate the use of the word haram police because they're like, oh, we're just like advising, etc., etc. While I get their perspective, if there's a whole batch of creators complaining about it, there's clearly like an issue at hand, right? And so obviously, I think Miriam and women in general, they're at the shorter end of the stick when it comes to social media sort of whatever criticism. So I guess this question to both of you guys: how has your experiences been with the haram police, and how have you dealt with them? And have any of their comments ever gotten to you to the point where you're like, because a lot of them are from Muslims, right? And I'll be the first one to admit it can get really, really toxic, extremely toxic. Even when we post clips about like our podcast, oh my God, some people you just gotta block them and move on. Like it's ridiculous. And so has the toxicity ever got to a point where you're like, I can't deal with this, like being a Muslim isn't for me? Miguel, man, you look like you want to say something. Go ahead.
I just don't want to jump on Miriam. I'm curious what like her perspective is, because I know it's going to be I'm sure it's going to be completely different from my experience, right? Because I know just on TikTok by itself, just you see like revert sisters, it's always something about the hijab, or if they're like a revert, it's something about like they had like a tattoo beforehand and then they get completely just destroyed in the comments, right? For me, I've never actually had to deal with something like that super intense. To be honest, most of the comments I get on my videos that are just like, oh my gosh, here we go again, are like either people from like troll accounts that are like trying to be like the haram police, because I'm like, I look at their account, I'm like, okay, these people definitely can't be Muslim, or they're just like just trolls in general who are like just trying to like say, oh, I'm an ex-Muslim, um this is all wrong, you're doing it all wrong, you're ruining your life. And it's just like one of those things where it's like, I don't give it any attention. You can't give this stuff attention, because the second you do, these people for some reason they get like, they must I think who is a Gary V pointed out, people who will like troll people on like their videos are obviously going through something themselves. So like just being empathetic towards that, I think, is like the best way to do it, because to get upset about someone you don't know, you've never personally talked to, you have no kind of like relationship with that person, to get upset at that, I think is kind of like a waste of your own time. But I've been fortunate on that, and I'm really curious for like Miriam's, because I know I, a revert sister, I just know from what I've seen on TikTok already is like 15 times worse. So
That's a very specific number, 15.
I wanted to give something really good, but like somewhat accurate, but I have no idea what I'm talking about with that number at the same time.
Yeah, so I've probably been like bashed on everything you can think of, because people are very, very quick to call you out. And you know, like obviously they say like it's my duty as a Muslim to call you out, to tell you, but it's one of those things where it's like I do know, you know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I've been called out on like having acrylics, so my nails done, eyelashes, my neck out, dancing, not dressing modestly, all sorts, like everything you can imagine, kind of
Music.
thing. Like, yes, music, yeah, that's a big
Oh my
one.
God, how can you be on a music app and call people out for music? That just blows my mind. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
TikTok.
I agree.
That's
Yeah, like as you've said, you can see like it can get very, very toxic very, very quickly. There are some accounts that are like completely and utterly just bash 24/7. To be honest, my account is like, I'm actually doing all right. There's not like there's a lot, but there's not too much at the same time. Like there's loads more positive stuff than there is negative stuff. I probably get more or got more in person than I did like over social media, to be honest, because I feel like I just like I do the same with Miguel, you just kind of ignore it because they're literally strangers, and it's, for example, if they're bashing something like music or something like the way I wear my hijab, like I already know that. It's not something new to me. It's not something that I like I want to change, and so I'm going to do it in my own time. Like it's not your journey, it's my journey kind of thing. But yeah, I do probably get more in person than on social media, really. It's just as toxic in real life, I guess.
This is actually a topic of conversation that I have with the other hosts all the time. And like the toxicity of the Muslim community, it sometimes feels like it's more toxic than any other community online, right? Because it feels like everything is suffocating you to the point where you have to be like this perfect role model to every single person, whereas they forget that you're just a human being on a social media app like them. And the only difference is you are willing to put content out there, whereas other people are not, right? That's really the only difference. And it really sucks to see things like that, because like one of the other co-hosts, his best friend is a revert Muslim, and he's like very secretive about it, right? And so when he hears comments like these, it hits him personally, because like the journey of what you guys have gone through is, I can't even think of any challenge in my life that comes even close to that, right? And just knowing that you have all of this context that now you're sharing, but people, like if I saw Miriam on TikTok, I wouldn't know that she lives by herself in university. I would not know your story. And so just typing like 200 characters and bashing someone without knowing their story is like one of the stupidest things you can do. But yeah, that's my little rant for today. But
I think at the end of the day, like you hit the nail on the head with the hammer right there, right? Like it's one of those things where it's like some people, I don't get why they just feel like it's their duty. Like, and as a Muslim, it's like, yeah, we should be checking in and like making sure that people are okay. But like when it's like harassing, it's just like a whole nother level. And I'm like, wait, this isn't even like where in Islam does it say to like start criticizing someone? Like this isn't even like sunnah. Like what hadith says something like this, right? And this is where it's like I feel like it's tied into like a culture thing, right? Because like for me, Islam's broken into a couple different things. It's like your personal relationship with Islam, your family relationship with Islam, and then like a cultural relationship with Islam, right? And that family and culture sometimes can alter how people view Islam. And sometimes in certain cultures, some things are really, really strict upon. And then that's portrayed on social media, right? You got people with like the thumb warriors who are just out there just typing away, but don't realize that what they're saying can affect people. Like, alhamdulillah, like for me, I kind of brush it aside, but like for someone who doesn't have a supportive network of friends or a family or something like that, that's a new revert. I've seen on TikTok, there was like a kid who just reverted the other day and he blew up. Alhamdulillah, his following just grown huge. But like I see on his comments, like 99% of the comments are just making fun of him because he's a Muslim now. And just trolling him because he doesn't do this, he doesn't have a beard, he doesn't do this. I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, where does this come from?
like let the man live. Like goddamn, it's insane, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like people focus, like the people behind the screen, they focus so much on the do's and don'ts of Islam, they forget the true beauty behind it. And they're so focused on telling us what's right and wrong rather than, like the actual really, really important parts of Islam.
Yeah. Okay, we've talked a little bit about like people we shouldn't want to be, right? Don't be like these TikTok scholars, please. Anyone listening to it, think before you comment, think before you speak in real life and on social media. But I want to flip the other side of the coin, and I want to talk about people who have good character, right? In Islam, one of the things that is highly encouraged and one of the best things you can do as a Muslim is to be a person of good character, right? Be kind to people, be nice, be confident, etc. And so I'm curious if you guys, in your journey when you were exploring religion, or even after you became a Muslim and you needed like support or anything like that, Did you ever come across a person who had that like exemplary character where you're like, wow, like that's what it means to be a Muslim, like that's who we should be like? And any stories are welcome.
You go.
You want me to go?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. Um, I think one really important thing for me before I was even Muslim, when I was Christian, because as a very traditional Christian, there's like certain things that like I noticed about Muslims, and that I used to work in like some shops. I used to work for Puma, right? For example, and in the
Kind
shop
of
there was a couple
ironic you're wearing
Muslim.
an Adidas hoodie though.
I know, eh? What this is. It was a long time ago. All right. The one thing I did notice, and this is something that I think is like really good dawah. I think this is like an unspoken of dawah, but like it's really, really essential. And that all the Muslims I met, because to be honest, up until the age of I think 20, I did not know one single Muslim. Right? I went to
Yeah.
Catholic school. I was in a really big bubble, and that's actually I feel like that's a very dangerous thing because then you start to build up like this idea of what Muslims can be without even knowing it. But working with Muslims, I realized that all the Muslims I knew were generally really good people in like their manners and like the characteristics of who they were. Um, you never really see them swear. You never really see them like just like be like they had proper manners. And this is something I really took notice of because I remember it was like during Ramadan, and I remember seeing everyone. They're like, "Yeah, we're fasting and stuff like that," and I'm like, don't you like not even water? Like that's like the quote of the year for like Ramadan. It's like not even water. I'm like, not even water? Like that was me, right? Like I was that person. And they're like, no, like this is something, it's like a religious obligation. And like they were just so dedicated to it that it was like really beautiful for me from an outside perspective to see. And it's always one of those things where it's like Muslims are an example every day to non-Muslims. And it's like every detail about how they act and stuff like that, non-Muslims notice, and it's very, very important. And that's something that at least I definitely saw, like definitely strong character and all that.
Yeah, 100%. There's definitely the Muslims that I know, same as you, their character just literally shines through, and they show me and everybody else how to be a good human, like regardless of religion. Obviously it's the religion that makes them like that, but they're a lesson to everyone really. I've got a few people that when I was so straight after I converted, when I was kind of, changing my life around, they were so patient with me and so always so calm. They were ready to pick up the phone and speak to me about anything. They were just that patient is just like the sabbath that they had was like, it was just admirable, mashallah. And I had a few friends that were like that. Like for example, like as I've mentioned, like dance was a big thing for me, and I had a girl that like would speak to me about it consistently. She'd try and find as much information as she can on Islam and dance, because obviously it's not really something that there's like talks about because they don't really go together. So she'd like go out of her way to find loads of research. She came with me one time to go and speak to someone about it. She sat with me for hours. We discussed it. We cried about it, everything, because and just the way that she was so patient with me and never said, look, you need to stop. It was always like, this is your decision, this is your life, I'm gonna give you all the information you need, I'm gonna help you get there. But at the end of the day, if you dance for the next 20 years and then decide it's wrong, or if you stop right now, like that's completely up to you. I will be there and I will support you through it, and I will tell you what Islamically is right, and I will help you and I will guide you, but I will never force anything upon you. And the way that she acted as a Muslim is just that, it's just inspiring, and people like that, yeah, their character just shines through, mashallah.
Yeah, mashallah. I honestly like hearing you guys speak about that really like brightens up my day, and it softens my heart a little bit, because that's something that is emphasized. Because I should have mentioned this earlier. I actually went to an Islamic school from grade 6 all the way till 12. Miguel, I went to ISNA. If you're,
Oh wow.
yeah, man, I'm an ISNA boy. Anyways, and so over there, kind of like what Miguel was mentioning about like the bubble in like in Islamic in a Catholic school, that's a conversation we had all the time. It's like, is Islamic school a bubble or not, right? Because you're only surrounded by Muslim people, and you know, we would have like luxuries, obviously, that now that you look back, you're like, wow, they were really good luxuries, like having time carved out for Jummah prayers, having time carved out for like
Mm.
Lohar and Asar during school and whatnot. So like, they were really good. But one of the things that was constantly emphasized is like, you know, have good character, be good people, be an ally for others. But for some reason, a lot of people felt like their character should only be good towards other Muslims, right? For some reason, some Muslims are like, I have to have like an A plus character towards Muslims. And I mean, I don't, whatever. Like, if there's a non Muslim, like, yeah, maybe I'll give charity once in a while, whatever. And that's never a concept that I fully understood, because I feel like, yes, you should be good to your Muslim brothers and sisters. Of course, you should be. But I think it's even more important for you to be good to people who aren't Muslim, or equally as good, just because, you know, like, you are the emblem of your religion. The fact is, they are not going to go and study the Quran, they are not going to go and study the religion like you have. They're going to study you, right? And so if you are a good person, like Miguel said, if all the people that all the interaction you have with non-Muslim people, they come out of it thinking, damn, this is a really nice guy. You know, he helps out in the community, he helps out his friends, he's kind, yada yada yada. That's a way for them to explore even more, as opposed to you being like, hey man, I follow the prophet, you know. There's two completely different things. And so I hope whoever is listening to this really grasp the importance of having good character to other people, because it's extremely important, man. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, it's so important. I don't know about you, Miguel, but when I first converted and I was thinking about telling my family, the few Muslim friends that I had, they all said to me, the way that you behave now in like the upcoming weeks before and after telling your parents is how they're gonna see Islam. And if you like make your character and you help around the house, if you do everything you can to be the best Muslim you can, your parents are going to see that, and they're going to see that as a reflection of Islam. If you go around and you're swearing and you're being lazy, blah 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 blah, they're going to see that as Islam, like the way that you behave. And it's for, even if you're like, you're born Muslim and you're walking down the street, you go somewhere, there are people that they can tell you're Muslim, but like they don't know any Muslims. The way you behave and interact with those people is going to stay with them forever, and that's going to be the way that they see Muslims forever.
Yeah, I think it's funny because that same piece of advice was like the same thing that I got. And honestly,
Yeah.
it does make a huge difference, right? Like something as simple as like when you're waking up early for Fajr, making your bed, doing stuff like that, cleaning your room, make sure everything's like organized and stuff like that. That's definitely something that like my mom started to realize. She's like, okay, like this guy's more into like a routine. He seems to be like things are more straight, like kind of thing. Like it's more organized. There's like it's not like all chaotic. It's not like there's like I think Miriam really said exactly what it is at the end of the day. If people just see her and all she has to do is smile back at them, they're gonna realize that this person's the person that always smiles at me. Right?
Yeah.
It's something as simple as that. And I think it's like these very simple things that a lot of people kind of like brush off, but these small things consistently over time make up a huge thing at the end of the day.
100%.
Do your parents still think you're part of a cult?
Somewhat 100%. It comes out every now and then, but like it's one of those things where it's like we don't believe anyone after Jesus, anything after that. It's kind of funny because like even in the Bible it says like cover your hair when you're praying for women and stuff like that, which is like really funny because it's like a lot of stuff that's in Islam is is in Christianity, but it's just never practiced, right? It's like how Muslims pray with like their head on the ground. That's how Jesus prayed in the Bible. That's how like other prophets in the Bible have prayed. But it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's a cult apparently. So
I wanted to end this off by asking you guys, because we talked a lot about character and sort of what, you know, what people should do to sort of give like indirect da'wah in a sense. And so I'm curious more about, what do you think that the born Muslim community, like people like myself, can do to, you know, make sure that the revert Muslim community is welcomed into Islam just like anyone else, right? They are people who are not like othered in a sense, and they're not looked at as like Muslims with an asterisk, you know what I mean? And so in your experiences, what are some things that you've experienced that made you sort of feel like sometimes there was a divide, and what do you think that what are some advice really that you would want to share with the listeners? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of them will be born Muslims. Well, hopefully, who your followers will come and listen to this. So maybe there'll be a handful of revert Muslims as well. But what do you think that we, people like myself, can do? You guys want to do like rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first? Or like, what are we doing now?
I'll throw in a. I was just waiting for Miriam, but do you want to go or?
No, it's fine. You go.
Okay, okay. Um, there's definitely some things, at least from my experience, that I'm like, you know what, maybe these things can definitely help revert Muslims and definitely help born Muslims like kind of like come together, because there is a bit of a divide, and I think born Muslims don't realize it, especially when it comes to things specifically around like Islamic holidays, for example, like around Ramadan and Eid and stuff like that. Especially this year, not well, not technically this year, but like with COVID and everything like that, Ramadan during COVID, like it was the first time where I'm not able to leave my house and be engaged with a Muslim community. And something as simple as someone reaching out to me, like a born Muslim, for example, reaching out to me and just checking in and be like, hey, how you doing? Everything's good. And then like dropping off food at my house for some, like just random acts like that I'm like, it's so small, but it's such a significant thing because um at the end of the day, a lot of born Muslims can just go home and it's like, it's Ramadan, mom or dad are gonna cook food, and we're just gonna eat at the same time all together. And it's like for revert Muslims, we don't have that, right? We're fasting by ourselves, especially in quarantine. It's all by ourselves. Like I can't even go to the masjid to pray Juma. I can't do anything like that. It's all at home and it's very isolated, right? So the small connections, the going out of their way, just checking in and saying salam alaikum, how's it going, you doing all right, something small like that can go a long way. And I think it's like um it's not mentioned enough, but it's definitely something that should be pushed a little bit more.
Dude, give me your address next time I'm in Mississauga. I'll bring you food.
We'll hit up Isna for
Yeah,
Juma next
man.
time.
I definitely can second everything you just said. I feel like something that happens is when you convert, it's very much like a rush of people. Wow, like you just converted, mashallah. And then after 2 weeks, that's kind of it. It's like we're reverts forever. It's not something that kind of goes away. Like, for example, like you said, everyone has their family to go home to. Like, we don't have anyone. And like, I know personally for me, I was very much welcomed into a home after I converted, like a Muslim family's home. And then it was kind of like after a couple of weeks, I was just kind of thrown out. And it's like, okay, well, I'm still a revert. I don't have anywhere to live. And it's just like, definitely with Ramadan, I mean, that was probably the hardest month I've ever had because I've only done one, last year's one. And because obviously because of Corona, you're on your own. And it's like literally, like you said, someone just sending you a text or bringing food is literally would make such a big difference because we are completely and utterly on our own. And you can like, you know, do the first day on your own. You're like, oh wow, this is exciting, like Ramadan. And then like the second day, you're like seeing your friends' Snapchat stories like with their families and stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, like I'm on my own. And I don't know about you, Miguel, but I had to pretend I wasn't fasting. So like trying to fast in secret as well was just like an added extra thing, literally just for the Muslim community that aren't reverts to remember that, you know, like we're reverts forever. We, until I get married, I'm not going to have a Muslim family. Like, inshallah, you know, maybe one day my family will consider Islam, but right now, like, this is not a thing. It's not really an option. So for people to remember that, you know, just checking up in on me or sending me a book or something about Islam, just so like I feel like I still have a community of people that will be there for me if I need. And yeah, during Ramadan, bring food or whatever, just so we kind of know that, you know, we're not on our own. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel completely like on my own most of the time during this, that you've got a few people you can reach out to every now and again, but realistically you are on your own, and that's fine. But, you know, sometimes it can get like a bit harder. So if you just have, if like, you know, someone that's a revert, just reaching out to them and just say like, look, how are you doing? Are you okay? You know what I mean? Just little things like that would make a big, big, big difference for people like me, Miguel. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Miriam, I think everything you said. It's the same thing for me. I didn't have to fast in secret though. That's the one thing. But like when I was fasting, my parents, like I said, thought I was in a cult because like, why are you starving yourself? Right? They're like, it's
Yeah,
always that one thing. They're like, why don't you eat? Like, what's going on here? But it's like you said. It's like there are times where it really does get lonely. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, maybe 2 3 times a week you are meeting up with people and like you're getting food, but it's like the other 4 days or something like that, you're literally by yourself. There's literally like
yeah,
nothing, no other interaction with some of the with like, the Muslim community. So you're just like, okay, it's 9:30 at night. I'm gonna take my date. I'm gonna get my water, and it's not depressing because it's like it. I find Ramadan is a very beautiful experience, and like how you're like everything happens in like that 1 month, and like from the beginning to the end, it's really like this whole journey. But it's just like there definitely are some really lonely times that like I don't think anyone with like a Muslim family really understands. And like for Miriam, for example, it's like at that very beginning, everyone's there and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, we're so happy, mashallah, subhanallah, this is the best thing ever." But then it's like that whole like what is it, like a honeymoon phase of like you becoming a revert is like,
yeah,
okay, you're Muslim now, take care, assalamu alaikum. And it's just like, oh, okay, like what now, like what, I guess I have to figure this out on my own. Like there's
yeah.
only like so much, right?
Man, you guys are hitting me in my feels. I'm gonna cry. um, well, I'm gonna make an active effort to reach out to the two of you a lot more regularly, just to make sure that you guys are doing okay, and I'm here for you guys. And listen, if you guys ever need anything from me or this podcast, if you just want to vent one day, that's a free episode for us. Hit me up and I will make it happen. But no, honestly, it's really saddening to hear something like that. And I'm not gonna pretend to be like this like pseudo altruistic guy. Like I'm sure I have done that in my past too. Like not just with like Revert Muslim, but just like friends in general. Like it's a human tendency to fall off and stop checking on people. But I can now like see like the effect it actually has on you, because you're right. Like I never actually thought about like a lonely Ramadan. Like it's like in a weird way, like it's unfortunate that I haven't experienced it, because it would be nice to like empathize with you, but unfortunately I can't, right? And yeah, honestly, whoever's listening, make an active effort to reach out to people and check in with them, because I think that's really important. And I honestly think the closest I've probably ever gotten to what you were talking about was like COVID quarantine. But even then, like you said, you're alone, right? So whoever's listening, just think about you being in like COVID quarantine alone for like years and years and years. Like it's a really hard thing, on your psyche, on your emotions, on everything really. And so hopefully this can inspire some conversation and some change going forward. I did have one last follow-up question. So we talked a little bit about like what individuals, like people like myself, can do, but would you like to see some changes or something different in institutions like mosques and such? Because I feel like there's a lot of times people put the put sort of like this onus on individuals, which they should, rightfully so. But we also have to understand that like individuals can only do so much, whereas there's institutions whose role it is to make sure Muslim people feel welcome. They are the ones who provide like educational services, etc., etc. So do you think that there's something bigger in magnitude, so to speak, that masajids, mosques, Islamic institutions, organizations, whatever, can do to be a bit more like welcoming? Because I would assume that there's still that divide there, right, between institutions as well as incoming revert Muslims.
Mm,
It's a good question. I feel like for this one, it's like I'm still fresh in the game. That like, especially with COVID, I haven't been able to go to masjids as often as I want to. But like, I know when I attend like lectures and do courses and stuff like that, I feel like there's a gap between what we can study on our own and learn from our own, and then what's being taught there. For example, like if I want to learn Arabic, they have an Arabic course for children, but like
yeah,
for me as an adult, like there's nothing. There's like no support there. It's like there's big gap between like everything I want to learn. They only have specifically for younger youth. like growing up. Like for at ISNA, for example, it's something I noticed straight away. It's like I'd love to get more involved with the community, or like at other masjids, to be honest. It's just like I want to be more involved, but it's like certain courses, like people are already at like a certain level, and then where I'm at, it's like not even close there. I'm at like this elementary level of like knowledge and like stuff like that, but it's like I can't go into that class and learn because I'm going to be in a class with like 4 or 5 year olds learning that same type of level. So it's like it's kind of weird and like off-putting. It's like I can't really do that, and it's just like this weird area where it's like I want to learn but I can't learn because there's nothing really available for me to be able to participate in. Like, yeah, I can volunteer and like help the community at like a food bank and stuff like that with like the Muslim community, but it's like it's there's a huge gap in where I'm at and what's available.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the same problem here as well. I feel as well like there are classes, for example, that I've signed up to, and then I just don't understand what's going on. The words that they use, I'm like, my vocabulary isn't that big. Like, I just don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, I want to learn, I want to go to these classes, but I just don't know what's going on. So, and as well, I feel it's very important to mix the revert community with the born and raised Muslims. And we're not really given that chance because we can't attend these lectures because we just don't know what's going on. And then obviously if we wanted to learn, we'd have to start with the 5-year-olds, and obviously that's great, but it's not really something that we want to be doing. If there are like classes where it's kind of like revert language, so it's simplified, but it's also like that deeper knowledge that we want to gain, where so then we can sit with the raised Muslims and kind of feel all together all at one, but it's like we still actually understand what's going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I relate to what you're saying, and that I think that there is definitely a gap, because I can relate to sort of what Miguel was saying, because I'm using that mosque as like a benchmark because I've been there, and even though I've attended Islamic school for what 6-7 years, never ever was there even one khutbah or talk or anything on Revert Muslims. And that, like, looking back at it, that's just that's insane. Like, 7 years and not even once. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I guess there were stories and like people taking the shahada and stuff, but there was never even like a 20-minute talk on how to welcome them, how to treat them, how to talk to them, how to be, this, that, and the other thing. There was never that. And I think that needs to be done a lot more as well. It's just normalizing the interactions between born Muslims, revert Muslims, and literally anyone, even if they're just exploring the religion. Because even though it's unintentional, it is literally creating a divide. Because I can only imagine, like, unless you're like a super, super humble person, I'm sure, like, if I was in the case and I was put in a class with like 5-year-olds, my ego would get in the way just like a little bit. You'd be like, okay, this is kind of weird. I'd probably still do it, but I can imagine what a person would go through, right? And like you said, that sort of it erects a barrier between mixing, right? And even when there's regular events at masjids, like, fundraisers, barbecues, whatever, there's a huge divide between, like, also like the Sunni Shia community, but there's an even bigger, like, I don't know if it's a bigger divide, but there's also a glaring divide between born Muslims and revert Muslims. And like the inclusivity aspect is just like not there, and it sucks. And I've seen that in Mississauga. I've seen that here. By the way, I'm in London because we have a London here in Canada, but like I call it the fake London because you're Miriam, you're in the real London. So but yeah, like in Mississauga, in London, like other places as well, it really does suck. But you guys have any parting words of wisdom for anyone watching this?
You wanna go, Miriam?
No, not really.
Nice.
Just, yeah, no. Sorry.
That's totally cool. Miguel, you look like you want to say something.
I'm trying to collect my thoughts. That's why I kind of want Miriam to go
Yeah.
first, because I'm trying to like process
Everything's
what I can say,
everywhere.
because I want to say something that like people would benefit from. But like, um, at the end of the day, I think being a Muslim revert is a blessing in many ways. It's challenging in many ways, but I think together as a Muslim community, we can all grow together. And I think you pointed out there's certain things that both sides have to learn. to adapt better and stuff like that. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, we're all equal in the eyes of Allah, and I think there should definitely be work on everyone's part to help make everyone feel at home and feel comfortable and grow together. So
Yeah, like we are all equals, we're all the same, you know. There shouldn't be like the big difference between reverts and raised Muslims, you know. We're all kind of the same, we're all in the same boat, we're all trying to get to the same place, we have the same goals, you know. Let's treat each other as the same, and I feel like it will start to bridge that gap, really.
Well, that's a beautiful way to end it off. I have nothing else to say, except thank you both for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. I know we're all in like different parts of the world. I'm in fake London, so that says it all. But no, thank you guys so much. And I will be the first one to say I really enjoyed this conversation, because just sitting in and listening to the both of you has honestly really opened my eyes to a lot of the things that I take for granted, and a lot of the things that I can't really relate to. And some of the advice that you guys have shared are things that I'm going to try my best to try to implement, be it as simple as reaching out to someone and just asking how they're doing and just asking them how their day went, to, you know, more grandiose changes such as advocating for change in institutions and making sure that people are welcomed and they're not, you know, classified as like an other sort of bucket in the Muslim community. And hopefully whoever is listening to this also can share some sort of similar reflection and benefit from this conversation. And yeah, honestly, thank you guys both for being here. Really, really do appreciate it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.